The conference room fell silent when Marcus Hayes walked in carrying a Spider-Man backpack alongside his leather briefcase. 20 pairs of eyes tracked him as he made his way to the last empty seat at the massive oak table, the backpack's cheerful red and blue a jarring contrast against the sea of charcoal suits and pristine portfolios. Someone coughed, someone else smirked. Marcus had seen that look before, the one that said he didn't belong here, that questioned how a man who couldn't even arrange childcare could possibly contribute to a billion-dollar merger discussion. But what they didn't know, what none of them could possibly understand as they turned back to their presentations with barely concealed disdain, was that the exhausted single father they'd just dismissed would be the only thing standing between Brennan Industries and complete financial ruin. If you believe that people deserve to be judged by their character and capabilities rather than their circumstances, if you believe in second chances and the power of perseverance, please hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything. Marcus had been working at Brennan Industries for 7 years, climbing from junior analyst to senior risk assessment manager through nothing but pure determination, and late nights fueled by cold coffee and his daughter Emma's sleepy goodnight kisses through video calls. 6 months ago, his world had shattered when his wife Sarah died suddenly from an undiagnosed heart condition, leaving him alone with their 5-year-old daughter and a mortgage that seemed impossible on a single income. The company had been understanding at first, but understanding had limits in the corporate world. When Emma got sick and he had to leave meetings early, when parent-teacher conferences conflicted with presentations, when he showed up to the office, looking like he'd slept in his car because he actually had after Emma's nightmare kept them both. Up until dawn, the sympathetic looks turned to frustrated glances, and then to something worse, indifference. Today's emergency board meeting about the TitanCore merger should have been his moment. He'd spent 3 months analyzing every aspect of the deal, a partnership that would expand Brennan Industries into the renewable energy sector and supposedly triple their market value within 5 years. But this morning, Emma's babysitter had canceled at the last minute, and the school had called about a classroom incident that required a parent's immediate attention. By the time Marcus had sorted everything out, calmed his daughter, and made arrangements with his neighbor Mrs. Chen, he was an hour late to the most important meeting of his career, arriving with his daughter's backpack because, in his exhausted rush, he'd grabbed the wrong one from the hallway hook. The presentation continued around him as Marcus quietly pulled out his tablet from beneath Spider-Man's synthetic fabric face, trying to ignore the pointed look from David Brennan, the CEO's son and the driving force behind the TitanCore deal. David had made his opinion clear over the past few months. Marcus was a liability, someone whose personal problems were affecting his professional judgment. 3 times Marcus had requested additional time to complete his risk assessment. 3 times he'd been told the deal was moving forward, with or without his sign-off. But something had been nagging at Marcus, a discrepancy in TitanCore's environmental compliance reports that didn't quite add up, numbers that seemed too perfect, documentation that felt rehearsed rather than authentic. As David launched into his closing arguments about how TitanCore would revolutionize their portfolio, Marcus felt his stomach drop. There, on slide 47, was the final piece of the puzzle he'd been searching for, displayed so casually that everyone else had glossed right over it. TitanCore's flagship solar facility in Nevada, the crown jewel of their operation, had been issued its environmental permits through a shell company that had dissolved 3 months ago. The permits were invalid. The facility was operating illegally. And if Brennan Industries completed this merger, they wouldn't just be acquiring a renewable energy partner, they'd be inheriting approximately $800 million in environmental violations, pending lawsuits, and federal investigations that TitanCore had been desperately hiding behind layers of corporate restructuring. Marcus's hand shot up, interrupting David mid-sentence. The room turned to him with expressions ranging from annoyed to openly hostile, but Marcus was no longer the dismissed, single father worried about making a good impression. He was the risk assessment manager who had just spotted a company-ending catastrophe, and nothing, not the smirks or the eye rolls or the weight of his daughter's backpack against his chair, was going to stop him from speaking. His voice was steady as he explained what he'd found, pulling up documents on his tablet, cross-referencing dates and legal filings, walking the board through each damning piece of evidence while the color slowly drained from David Brennan's face. The shell company, the fraudulent permits, the federal investigation that was set to go public in less than 2 weeks, precisely 3 days after Brennan Industries would have finalized the merger and assumed all legal liability. The silence that followed was different from the one that had greeted Marcus when he walked in. This silence was heavy with the weight of a billion-dollar disaster narrowly avoided, with the collective realization that they had almost destroyed everything their company had built over 4 decades. CEO Richard Brennan stood slowly, his face grave as he postponed the merger indefinitely and called for an immediate investigation. Then he did something that shocked everyone in that room. He walked over to Marcus, extended his hand, and thanked him not just as an employee, but as the man who had saved their company despite being given every reason to stop caring. If this story touched your heart, if Marcus's journey reminded you that dedication and integrity matter more than perfect circumstances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. The following week, Marcus was promoted to Vice President of Risk Management, with a salary that meant he could finally afford reliable childcare, and maybe even that college fund he'd been dreaming about for Emma. But more than that, he'd earned something that couldn't be measured in stock options or corner offices: respect. His colleagues no longer saw a struggling single father when they looked at him. They saw someone whose perspective, shaped by real struggle and real responsibility, had given him insights that their comfortable lives had obscured. If Marcus's story moved you, please drop a comment below sharing a time when you or someone you know was underestimated. Your stories inspire us all. On Friday evening, as Marcus packed up his new office, Emma's actual backpack slung over his shoulder this time, he thought about that moment in the boardroom when he'd almost stayed silent, almost let his embarrassment and exhaustion win. He thought about how close he'd come to letting them dismiss him the way they'd intended to, and he was grateful, so deeply grateful, that he'd found the courage to speak up, not just for himself or for Brennan Industries, but for Emma, to show her that being present for the people you love never makes you less capable. It makes you human, and sometimes being human is exactly what the world needs most.